government of Uganda, through Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, has developed a number of laws that are really gender progressive, that are inclusive, that are people-centered. If you look at our land laws in the country, the government of Uganda has done a tremendous job in ensuring that the laws that we have protect the rights of all people, regardless of our differences. If you look at the laws that we have, if you look at the Land Act, if you look at the succession laws, all these laws are making sure that all Ugandans, regardless of our differences, whether we are male or female, whether we are people living with disability, whatever color we may have, or our races, that we all enjoy equal rights on land. So government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Lands, has really done a tremendous job in that area, in ensuring that the laws are good, and they provide an environment where all of us can be able to enjoy our rights, where all of us can be able to contribute to ensuring that we have food security, to ensuring that we have good livelihoods in terms of income generation, but also in ensuring that our country is able to develop in all sectors, in health, in water, in environment. All these depend on land. So we really commend the government of Uganda in that role. However, we see that despite the fact that the government of Uganda has placed very progressive, people-centered laws and policies that are inclusive, that ensure that all of us in our differences are able to enjoy, are able to exercise our rights, are able to contribute to the development of our country, we see that there is exclusion that is happening. A number of Ugandans are not able to fully exercise their land rights. This is especially women, people living with disability, young people or youth, and other socially marginalized groups that we have in our country. So on one end, we have very good, inclusive, people-centered laws and policies that ensure that all of us are able to enjoy and derive our sustenance from land. But on one end, we see that despite the fact that we have these good laws and policies, we still have groups of people, especially women, young people or youth, especially girls, people living with disability, the indigenous communities, the pastoralist communities. Those socially marginalized groups are still unable to be able to exercise their land rights and to make a contribution to the development of this country. And this challenge that we are facing as a country is mainly stemming from our cultures, which have social norms and practices that exclude these groups. For example, we know that in Uganda, women, culturally, land is provided through the male lineage. So this is excluding women, it is excluding girls, it's also excluding young people, youth, and excluding people with disability to be able to also have this land, because land is mainly attained through or gained or acquired through inheritance. But inheritance is providing land through the male lineage, meaning that our husbands, our brothers have more opportunity in terms of acquiring land, but also to be able to make decisions on this land. What should we grow on this land? How much do we, what do we use with the resources that we get from this land? And so on and so forth. So what we are doing as civil society organizations is that we are coming together with the government of Uganda, specifically the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, to ensure that we work together to close this implementation gap, to close this gap that is existing between the laws and policies, which are very good in terms of ensuring that all of us enjoy our rights, and the gap that is existing in regard to the practice, the reality that women, that young people, that people with disability, that pastoralist communities are actually living. We are seeing that many of these women, many of these young people are still not able to own land. They cannot inherit land. They cannot make decisions on land. They cannot participate in land governance processes. If you look at our land management processes, how many young women are there? How many young people, how many women are sitting in these spaces to make decisions, critical decisions about land, which is a major resource that we all depend on. So we have come together with the government of Uganda to ensure that we work together to close this implementation gap. And I'm calling it an implementation gap because the laws are there, they are very good, but a lot of effort has been put in terms of developing those laws, but not so much effort has been put in making sure that these good laws and policies are put into practice, so that women, young people, people with disability can enjoy these land rights the same way men and older people enjoy these rights on land. So we have done a lot of collaboration with the government of Uganda. For example, Honorable Minister has given an example, has given many examples of how civil society organizations are working with government of Uganda through the Ministry of Lands to implement a number of projects in communities that increase awareness on the rights of women and other socially marginalized groups. Projects that ensure that women and young people are benefiting and participating in the land rights registration processes, especially on customary land, where our norms and practices are really strong in excluding women and young people. Interventions around awareness, social norm transformation, having conversations with communities to discuss how these social norms that come from our cultures are excluding women, young people, and trying to understand how these norms, the discriminatory norms, are harming us as individuals, are harming our families, are harming our country, and working together to transform these norms so that we have more equitable norms, social norms, that ensure that all of us are able to participate and benefit from land governance processes. Besides the different projects that have been mentioned by the Honorable Minister and Dr. Kopsinja, we also are doing joint advocacy. Joint advocacy under the Stand for Her Land campaign, which has been mentioned by Dr. Doreen and the Honorable Minister. This campaign is basically for us coming together to put our voices together as civil society, as grassroots women, as marginalized groups, together with government to say enough is enough. We need to implement the existing laws to ensure that these groups can also benefit and participate in land governance processes. So basically we are putting our voices together to ensure that we advocate for more financing of the land sector, so that more resources are put into the Ministry of Lands to be able to implement these good laws that they have come up with, that we have all contributed to ensure that women, especially at the grassroots level, are given a space to be able to voice and to talk about the challenges that they face and the projects or the activities that they need to be able to overcome some of these challenges. So the campaign is a very powerful space where we are coming together to raise our voices together and ensure that we have the implementation of these laws and policies in regards to strengthening the rights of marginalized groups. We are also working together with the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, the Government of Uganda, to ensure that we review the existing laws and identify the gaps that still exist or the inconsistencies, if any, that contradict what our Constitution says. And together make sure that we continue to strengthen our laws, because that is a strong foundation upon which we can ensure that socially marginalized groups are able to fully exercise their land rights, enjoy their land rights, contribute to the development of this country, and ensure that all of us benefit from this critical resource that we all depend on. So we are all, as civil society organization that I represent, we are looking forward to this event where we are going to showcase, where we are going to be telling everyone the importance of the partnership that we are having with government, because we know as civil society organizations, we cannot do it alone. We also know that government cannot do it alone, but together, if we work together, and with so many examples that have been shared by Dr. Doreen, we are seeing that we are making a lot of progress. And we really thank the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development that has opened the doors for civil society organizations to come in, so that we sit on the table together and together find solutions that can make sure that this land is for everyone, that we are all able to enjoy this land and benefit from it and have development for the country as a whole. So thank you so much, and we invite you all to this conference that is going to be focusing on the partnership and showcasing the partnership between civil society organizations and government in promoting proper, people-centered and inclusive land governance in our country. Thank you so much. For God and my country.
We commend the government of Uganda for all commitments made at national, regional, and global levels to address hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition in the country. And we acknowledge Uganda's commitments to the 2030 SDGs and the post-Malabo process. And we recognize that the Learning Week is coming at a time when the country is experiencing high levels of food insecurity and malnutrition, and where we are seeing about 10.4 million Ugandans food insecure, and a rise of stunting among children under 5 at 26.4%. It should also be noted that tenure insecurity threats are contributing greatly to rising hunger and malnutrition. We are seeing a rise in land conflicts during planting season, and this affects crop production. Land evictions have escalated food insecurity, and the affected communities lose access rights to their lands, which include forests, and in the process cannot farm, leading to acute food insecurity, with many opting to eat one meal a day to survive. We also recognized, as mentioned by the previous speakers, that Uganda is experiencing cases of land-based investments, and even before construction begins, the assessment and approval of projects create significant new risks and uncertainty for Ugandans who currently depend on land for farming and grazing, or forestry and fishing. We also recognize that the food systems pathways have not been thoroughly integrated and streamlined into the land governance structures of the country. Therefore, this lessens the impact of actions made to address food and nutrition challenges in the country. The changes in land use patterns of fertile lands that were originally meant for agricultural production have led to the reduction in land cover for food crop production, hence negatively affecting agriculture, especially subsistence, which was central to the rural livelihoods of Ugandans. So the Land Learning Week presents an opportunity for constructive engagement and partnership with the government of Uganda to promote people-centered land governance for all Ugandans, and it also presents an opportunity for civil society working in Uganda to showcase successful initiatives, partnerships, collaborations with the government of Uganda to ensure that land is planned, used, and managed for the benefit of the present and future generations for God and my country. Thank you.
These are voluntary guidelines on the governance of tenure of land, fisheries, and forestry. Here, the government, the ministry, even put up a VGGT-like center at the ministry where issues were dealt with. These are guidelines that are international guidelines that help us to check the way we are dealing with land governance, but also to pick from those guidelines that are good and they are helping us to secure tenure of Ugandans. I would also like to talk about the importance of inclusive and participatory approaches in policy formulation. In short, we are talking about this collaboration, but why is it so good? Why is it that when civil society organizations and government come together to deal with issues of land, what do we get from that? We see that as civil society, we try to bring inclusion of voices of the vulnerable and marginalized populations. Their land rights, we try to put them at the table, at the center, so that they are discussed. But also the collaboration itself helps us to address those issues where government might be constrained to work on them. Because at the end of the day, government and civil society organizations, we are contributed to a land governance that is people-centered. By people-centered, we mean to put the interests of the users, of the owners of land at the forefront. You know, most of these policies are done, but in most cases, we do not know whom these policies are intended for, whom the policies work for who. And we are saying in this case, the policies should work for the people who hold land, for the people who access and for the people who own land. Another importance and achievement that we can talk about is we tend to have a bigger fund envelope, because as government gets funding to address land issues and civil society organizations also get funding, the resource mobilization, I would say it is at a bigger scale compared if we are working in isolation as civil society organizations or as government. Just to let you know that in Uganda, in 2012, when the first issuance of certificates of customary ownership were done, the civil society organizations were very behind this, this provision, to see that civil society organizations working with government, they helped to actualize or to operationalize a policy that otherwise had taken over 15 years without being put into practice. Then, as we work together with government, we are making bigger strides, but also bigger achievements when it comes to land governance, because we are working as a unit. I would also love to briefly tell you about what strategies we think we should go on with as we ensure equitable access to land resources and resolving land disputes. As civil society organizations, we are going to do continued sensitization about land rights so that people themselves are empowered and they are equipped to demand for their own land rights. Sometimes a widow can fail to challenge a brother-in-law who is pushing her off her land after the demise of her husband, just because she doesn't know that there is a law that helps her to fight for her land rights. Then as civil society organizations, we are going to continue doing strategic advocacy so that we improve land governance, and this is going to be based on data. As National Land Coalition, one thing we are supported with by International Land Coalition, one thing that we pride in is collecting data on land governance. And this means if we stand up to make noise that it is only 16% of women that own in land, we are speaking with data, and we want to find the reasons why, but also at the same time, how can we contribute to improvement of this number so that we see women 40% or 50% of them holding the land in Uganda. We are going to continue providing legal service aid, especially for extreme cases of land rights violations, but also at the same time defending these land rights defenders. We have a category of people that come up to defend land rights of communities when there is eviction, when there is displacement, but most of those are targeted. And we are saying we shall continue defending them and giving them the necessary legal aid that they need. We shall continue supporting and encouraging alternative dispute resolution techniques, because we have seen that, and we have through research found out that 80% of the cases that are in court are land related, and the courts are clogged. So when we support alternative dispute resolution, we are going to contribute to helping the court itself, but also trying to contribute to land justice. Thank you so much about this campaign. It is a global campaign that seeks to strengthen the land rights of women. And how are we doing this? By bridging the gap between implementation and the law. We are saying Uganda has good laws that encourage women to own and access land, but in practice is different. So this campaign seeks to find out why is it different, where is the problem, especially when it comes to implementation. And we are trying to equip women with knowledge on their land rights so that they can demand for these land rights themselves, but also providing things like legal service aid, asking for more funding to the land sector so that we have land governance that is gender responsive. The other collaboration has been around the Land Awareness Week that is held every year in Uganda. As civil society organizations, in collaboration with government, we find out those pressing needs that should be addressed in the land sector, and we dedicate a whole week to try to create awareness on these issues, to create awareness on people's land rights, also to create awareness on how people deal with these conflicts. And this has been a success because as we go through the whole week, so many issues come in. We have crowds of Ugandans that come in to see that they talk about issues of land access, of ownership, utilization, and the different challenges that they find. The other collaboration was, and the one that led to the amendment of the Succession Act. As we speak, in 2022, we had this act assented to. It's the Succession Amendment Act. And our pride as civil society organization is to see that we were able to influence and see that both girls and boys, or females and males, are treated the same way when we are talking about issues of inheritance and issues of succession. So it is now okay, and it is in the law, that a girl child can inherit land from their parents. We have also collaborated with government, especially around the domestication and informed consent. When we are taking people's land, we should compensate them. We should make sure that even the compensation is free. They have to be informed. These are the issues that we are asking government to address. But also, we ask government to address issues of refugees, or constituencies that we can call stateless. As a country, we know that we have attracted over 1.5 million refugees, and these are providing competition when it comes to access of land, especially in the host communities. So what are we saying? This relationship should be governed, and it should be governed by policy and by our laws. Yes, we are priding in ourselves for being hospitable, but it has consequences. And we are not saying that the refugees should be sent away, but we are saying the way they deal with land should be very structured, but also basing on our constitution, where we say that land belongs to Ugandans, and if you're non-Ugandan, then you should hold this land through leases. Those are issues that we want to address. The other success story has been around the Stand for Her Land campaign, and I am representing the National Land Coalition. National Land Coalition Uganda is a platform of over 40 organizations that work on land governance in Uganda. They are both local and international. We are implementing our strategy through 8 themes, and we are contributing to a people-centered land governance in the country through influencing policy and practice in adherence to our 2040, to our Vision 2040. I would like, the Minister has said it all about the Learning Week. We are going to start with field visits, going to Dokolo and going to Butaleja. The delegates or participants are going to learn from how these collaborations have taken place between government and civil society, and we are going to document the successes, the challenges, but also the lessons learned. So we shall be able to come back to Munyonyo, where the sharing is going to take place. But we shall also launch a global report. A study on this collaboration has been conducted by CIFO, ICRAF, and this is the opportunity that we are going to use to disseminate this report, but also to have people react or comment to the report. So basically this morning, I want to share success stories of the collaboration that we have had between government and civil society organizations in promoting a people-centered land governance. We have engaged with government on several occasions, especially in the land sector, and one of them is, as civil society, we collaborated with government to contribute to the proposed amendment of the Land Act. There was a proposal of 18 areas, and government sought views from civil society so that we are able to contribute to the process. And in our position paper that we wrote as civil society, some of the things that we recommended for government to look into as they amend this act is to improve the relationship between landlords and tenants on the Milo tenure system. We suggested that there should be registration of these landlords and their respective tenants, but we also suggested that the land governance structures should be we should look into their technical capacity, but also at that same time their composition, because this has a direct impact on how they are going to deliver services. We also talk about issues of conflict resolution, where we are saying that the Land Act should give prominence to the role that is played by traditional or cultural leaders when it comes to resolution of land conflicts, but also the general governance and management of land. The other collaboration that we have had with government is about contributing to the assessment of the National Land Policy 2013. As we all know, this policy has come to an end, and every 10 years as a country, we are mandated to review our policy so that we can put there new emerging issues that need to be attended to when it comes to land governance. As civil society, we convened again and were able to write a position paper, and in this, some of the things that we ask the new policy to address and the things to include, one of them includes the rights of women should come out prominently, the rights of youth, pastoralists, and ethnic minorities when it comes to land rights. We want to address the issue of power of compulsory land acquisition, where we talk about, acquisition is done because of public interest, but public interest is not very clear. Anything can get in there, and it can be defined as public interest. We want issues of